Let's talk about schools because they go back for most of the country, all bar one state tomorrow. I know some private schools went back last week, but for the bulk of kids, it is ready to go back to school after, of course, a professional development day, which happens tomorrow. And remember, the Prime Minister has said one thing absolutely with clarity through the entirety of the pandemic for the past 2 years, and I agreed with him every step of the way.
The objective here is very clear, and we are all very shared in our view that schools go back and stay back on day one of term one. What we want to achieve is that those schools and the kids go back and stay back, and we don't have schools opening and closing, and the disruption that will cause.
Bloody oath, and as it should be. But there have been times when kids had been denied the chance to be able to physically go to school because the people in charge of the pandemic response weren't worried about the kids, weren't worried about the teachers, but, and I quote, wanted to send a message about how serious the pandemic was. I remember when Dr. Jeanette Young was the Chief Health Officer in Queensland. She's now, of course, the Governor, rewarded for destroying a generation of kids being able to go to school. Well, Queensland will have yet another delay to its return to school. There is nothing unique about the pandemic in Queensland, but the power of the teachers' union is absolute. They got a delay in school being able to go back. Now, amazingly, we got some reports today about just how much damage we've been doing to our kids by forcing them to stay at home. Some early childhood experts believe that there has been an increase in the number of kids who can't hold a pen, the number of kids who can't cut paper. Now, I know that we're not talking about kids in Year 12, we're talking about kids before they go to school. After the first lockdown in New South Wales, 3,000, remember that number, 3,000 kids never returned to school. We know about the anxiety, we know about the mental health issues and the stress. So while politicians will want a pat on the back for what they are doing with schools in 2022, can they ever be forgiven at the state level for what they did to our kids in 2021 or 2020? No. The Prime Minister has been clear all the way through this, that kids need to go to school. You and I have had a conversation for 2 years. It's been absolute that the kids are the ones being screwed over by the panic of those who get to choose between the living room and the cinema room for their lockdown. I know of some rather cashed up people in the media who were arguing for school lockdowns because they had secured the services of tutors to be able to effectively be the teacher in their classroom. Essentially, they were able to pay for the help to do it. While the rest of us, of course, had to do our best to try to be teachers, but of course none of us are educators. We learnt the value of a teacher, absolutely, in the past 2 years, but we also learnt about the dark heart of some people in charge, the people in charge who have told us up front that they would use schools as a weapon